Hello, everybody, and welcome to an episode that I didn't think I would be creating, probably ever, but certainly not today. I am recording this from Spain, where I'm currently on our first world schooling experience. So I brought my son, and we are living with a bunch of strangers who fast become family. And he is living this lifestyle where he goes to school on the beach. And it's pretty cool. He actually said to me the other day, I love school. And I was like, yes, I would love school too if I was going to the beach for school. So we're having loads of fun. I'm going to share more about it when I'm back. But the reason why I wanted to pop on and just record something short and sweet, and fair warning, anyone could come in at any time. The door's open, the kids are playing outside. But I was super inspired because I realized we are about to hit 1 million podcast downloads of all time. And that's kind of crazy in itself to say 1 million podcast downloads. But I also want to share, so I want to share a little bit about what I've learned, how I've got here, some key takeaways. And if you do want to hear more about this, then just like DM me on Instagram and let me know, and I'll create more episodes about this because I do think this is a big deal. Yeah, I'm just going to start from there. Actually, I think it's a big deal. So I wanted to connect a little bit with you as I was reflecting on this. I thought I'd just reflect with you and share it live in real time, because it might be that one of you listening to this very episode is the 1 millionth listener. How fun is that? So I also thought it was a great opportunity to teach about like starting something and achieving more than you thought you could, and just the possibility. I think when we start new things, we're so focused on what might not work. I can for sure tell you that I never thought I would hit 1 million podcast downloads. So that's quite fun. But I'm just going to share really raw and really real my reflections, and you can take what you can. If there's something that you want me to go into further, DM me on Instagram. If there's any questions that you've got that you want specifically answered, you can also DM me on Instagram. It's at Vicky Yaffe, VIKKIYAFFE. And you can also always email our team if you're not on Instagram, which is team@timehackers.xyz. But let me get into it and my reflections from 1 million podcast downloads. And some of you, I'm pretty sure I did this at like 50,000. There might be an episode on 50,000 podcast downloads, which is kind of fun because that is also huge. That's a big deal. And I really felt it as a huge deal at the time as well. So fine, to 1 million, 50,000 might not sound a lot, but 50,000 is a lot of downloads. So I've really been reflecting first and foremost about just like so much appreciation for past Vicky for starting and remembering. I literally remember exactly where I was sat. I was in a co-working space. It was empty because, I used to like to work all the hours. And I decided I would just try this thing. I was super unattached to it being super successful. But I remember hitting record and it feeling like this huge, really big deal. And now I like literally just decided a minute ago to record an episode, and here we are. So it's also a lesson in like what feels hard and strange and uncomfortable one day will become fluid and natural. And I know you've got so many examples of this in your own life. So really leaning into just start. The second thing I'm reflecting on is how I really did it my way. So I started this podcast years ago. I don't actually remember how many years ago, but years ago. And at the time, long form podcast was really the thing. Everyone was doing interviews. That was how you grew. You got your audience to share with other people's audience. And I decided to, at first, every 10 episodes, I would record an interview with someone. And then I just cancelled it and deleted it, because there was no real purpose to it aside from wanting to grow my audience. And that didn't feel like something I wanted to create. I wanted to create something that was actually valuable, that people could listen to, walk away with, and it would change their life. Like a single episode. You can scroll to a single episode, anyone, and get a takeaway that literally moves you forward, helps you, with anxiety, with procrastination, with a decision, with whatever it is, that gives you an idea that you haven't already thought of. So really, like the idea of interviewing random people I met in Facebook groups just to grow my audience did not align. I think I did 2 or 3 and then just deleted them. Sorry if you are a listener that was one of those 3 people. It's not to say you didn't have something great to share. It just was so off key with what I was doing. So just that reminder that you can test different things, and just because A, everyone else is doing it, or B, you're doing it, doesn't mean you need to continue doing it. Such a golden, juicy lesson. The next thing I'll speak about is the short episodes. So I remember when I was getting into self-development, Tony Robbins, you definitely come across Tony Robbins, and he had a podcast, and I wanted to listen, and it was an hour and a half long. And I've still never listened to that episode of the podcast. Like now I don't even remember what it is, but I remember being like, I want something that's super easy to listen to. That's why most of our episodes are 10 to 15 minutes, aside from when we interview clients. Because the idea that I can concentrate on anything for an hour and a half, let alone a podcast, is laughable. And I just really want it to be accessible. You know, this podcast really supports busy people, and busy people like me at that time did not have an hour and a half and have never found an hour and a half to listen to that podcast episode. Not to say that it wouldn't be worth it, and not to say looking back, I'm like, I could have listened to it in 10-minute increments, but I didn't. So I wanted to make it super easy. Like I always say to our clients, like I want us time hackers to do the hard work so you can have it as easy as possible, and creating shorter episodes is an example of that. I decided not to edit the first 3 episodes. If you go back and listen to right at the beginning, I think I was fiddling with editing a little bit, and it took so long that I decided to just not edit my episodes. Now this might mean that there are more quiet moments or ums or ahs or whatever it might be, but I also am a big believer that like we're human to human. I think now more than ever, I couldn't predict the evolution of AI then, but I hope that you guys appreciate that this is a real human experience, and it's not optimized and perfect, and there's no flashy shining lights. And if you go back to my old episodes, there was an intro, there was an outro, there's all this stuff that I just don't do anymore, because I've figured, again, what would I like? I like to get straight to the meat and potatoes, and that's what I'm doing with you guys. If you've been with me a while, you'll notice that I've rebranded twice, right? It started as Fuck Anxiety and Get Shit Done. Love that brand. Then moved into Time Hackers, then back to the Feminist Time Coach, then back. Like I could come up with a new brand every week, but you are not here because of the brand. You are here because of the lessons, the value. And again, moving away from what I want and into what you want. And I think that's what creates, like, all of these things, I think, are what creates larger listenership. Actually doing it your way, thinking about your audience, prioritizing them over yourself, prioritizing them over what experts are saying. Another thing I'll say is I am not consistent. If you've been following a while, you know this. I'm not consistent. Maybe I was before I had my son. I can't actually remember, but I'm not consistent. I don't require myself to be consistent. I require myself to serve, to help you guys, to think of what is valuable and get it in front of you, not to just tick something out every week so that you guys can say, wow, Vicky is consistent. Like, I'm not consistent. I'm consistent in myself. I'm consistent in my values. I'm not consistent in my timeline. And some of you guys won't be surprised by that. Like, you get to do it your way. And I've said this before, I value persistency over consistency, right? If we require being consistent and then we're ill, then we've like, everything's falling apart. Instead of, no, I'm willing to keep going. I'm willing to pick back up. I'm willing to not record a podcast for 2 months and then come back right back to you with some fire, some gold, and some value. That, to me, is what creates 1 million downloads. And celebration, I touched on this earlier, right? I remember logging in after I published my very first episode and seeing that there were 17 downloads, 17. I was like, well, there's me and my mum and 15 other people. Like, who are they? That's so fun. Like, there was not a tiny part of me that was like, oh, no one's listening. I was like, whoa, 15 people I don't know in the world have listened to my first podcast episode. That is amazing. And that mindset, that mentality is what keeps you going. That appreciation for every single listener, for every single download, for every single person that DMs me and says like, wow, like I listen to this in the car with my kid, even though we swear, because it's so good and I want them to learn this. Like, you helped me, quit my job. You helped me stop feeling guilty for sleeping in the morning. You helped me take my first vacation, like, without my laptop. Like, yes, I did some, whatever it might be. Like, I love your podcast. You've spoken to my soul. Thank you so much. Like, every single one. I'm not looking for hundreds and thousands. Like, yes, at this point, we do have a few hundred reviews across different platforms, but each one is like gold. I'm not looking to say we've got 10,000. I mean, even one day we will have 10,000 and I'll be like, wow, 10,000 reviews, but it's still 10,000 individuals. So if you've been listening for a while, or even this episode or anything, you want to message me anytime, I love to hear from you about your interaction with the podcast, what you're learning, what you're changing, even any suggestions or any questions that you have. I'm here. And that, like, kind of leads me to the last point, which is really thank you for listening. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you trusting me, coming on this journey with me, taking my crazy ideas. My little one at the moment is saying, I'm crazy. I'm crazy. I'm like, you are. And so am I, because I am crazy to start a podcast. I'm crazy to continue with a podcast at over 300 episodes. It's crazy to get 1 million downloads. And it's crazy to be able to help people that you will never know and never meet. And you guys, by following, subscribing, watching, share, like maybe even sharing with your friend or writing reviews, you are helping these tools get into the hands of more people. And at this point, I've got quite a big mission. We're taking on the entire time industry. That's left us, less productive and more burnt out, and offering more surface level tools that leave us more frustrated and busier. So it's kind of a big deal what we're doing at Time Hackers. And I appreciate every single person that is tuning in and willing to follow that rebellion and to say, yes, there is something that's not quite right here. So if you are new to me today and this episode piqued your interest because of the podcast downloads, welcome. I would say, follow, subscribe, and enjoy all the episodes. And if you're looking for a first thing to do to continue to stay connected, you can follow me on Instagram at Vicky Yaffe. And if you want to get our emails, you can actually start with the Stop Wasting Time guide. It's completely free. And I break down the 4 biggest time wasters that account for like 80% of wasted time. And it's got nothing to do with TV and scrolling and things that are surface level, and more solve for like, why do we do those things? Why am I even picking up my phone when I was supposed to be doing something else? The phone is not the problem. Before there was a phone, there was a fridge. Before there was a fridge, there was a book. Before there was a book, there was a person that I could go speak to, or whatever it might be. There's always something to do to distract yourself. So we have to stop trying to focus on the symptom and start getting to the root cause. And the biggest return on time you will ever get is from learning simply how to stop wasting it. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for almost 1 million downloads at this point. And yeah, I'll see you guys on Instagram or in our inbox or in Stop Wasting Time. Have a wonderful week. Bye, everyone.